and I'm a brand ambassador for Gelli Arts, and I want to thank Michaels for giving us the opportunity to teach this class here today. I'm going to let me see. I have to do a couple of things to make sure that I don't lose connection. So here we go. Today we're going to do tape transfers, which is a really fun and a very easy technique for people to do. Even if you are a Gelli printing beginner, then this is something that that you can do. And I'm going to show you a little sample. So here's one of my samples. I don't know if you can see it very well, but this is the tape. This is a white tape. I also have a narrower tape, but you will see it better when I start printing, and you will have the view on my hands. So maybe we can just switch to my hands. There we go. So today I'm going to print on the big plate, on the 8x10 plate, and I'm going to have the smaller 5x7 plate next to it because I'm going to use this as a paint palette. Because I did a video, a Zoom class last month where I made texture blocks, and I'm going to use those texture blocks in today's class, and they are kind of stamps. So I'm going to make kind of a stamp pad from this plate. And if you missed that video and later you think that they look cool, the texture blocks, then you can rewatch it on the Gelli Arts YouTube channel. So I have a dirty gel plate here. I thought, I always tell people that I don't clean my gel plate, but I start like every class and every Facebook Live with a clean plate. And I was like, I tell people not to clean it, and then I clean it. So I just left it as it was the last time I used it. And actually, I will show you what you can do with the leftover paint on the plate regarding the tape transfers from today. This is a bit loud, but once it's out, it's okay. So as you can see, I stored my plate between two sheets of copier paper. That is the best way to store your plate because you won't have any air bubbles. If you store it with the acetate sheet that came with the plate, then you might get air bubbles underneath the plastic sheet, and you will get dents in your gel plate that you will actually see in your prints. So it's better to store the plate between two sheets of copier paper. And then you don't get that. So I'm not very, how do you say it, very precious with my plate. And I might have some dents somewhere, but I'm okay with that. And my prints are messy always anyway. So if there's an extra texture because there's a little dent or something in my plate, then I don't have a problem with it. But if you want to make sure that your plate stays really nice and clean and without any air bubbles or dents or whatever, then you should actually clean your plate before you store it. Because even little bits of paint left on the plate might create a little dent in your plate. So to clean your Gelli plate, what you can do is use some tape, like the kind of tape I'm using today for the transfers, and just put it on the plate like this. And then when you lift it up, it will just remove all the paint from the plate. And you have not only a clean plate, but also some really nice tape that you can use in your mixed media projects. So I'm going to cut this one off. And even the ones that have only like the leftover paint from the plate are pretty enough to use, right? I love it, kind of like peeled paint, which it actually is. Okay, so this is going to be my paint palette, and here is where I'm going to create a masterpiece that I will then lift up with clear tape, which will turn it into a nice colorful tape that you can use as if it were washi tape, and or any collage material. You can use it any way you like in your art journal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with applying a little bits of paint to my plate. And what is important to remember when you do a tape transfer is that when you do a normal gel print and you have several layers on your plate, the layer that is on the plate first will be the top layer of your print. But the thing is with the tape transfer, what you see is what you get. So your top layer will also be your top layer in your tape. So you can build up layers from the bottom to the top. And what you put on the layer last will also be the top layer of your print. I hope that makes sense, but otherwise you will find out when I'm done. So I'm going to add little bits of paint, but I'm not going to cover my entire plate. I need some paper to to clean my brayer. I was not that well prepared. I thought I was, but I was not. So I'm going to add little bits of paint, and I like to start with the brightest colors, because if you put a darker color on top of the brighter color, then the darker color will probably remain the color it originally was. But if you put a lighter color on top of a darker color, then the color will change. For instance, if I would put purple here and try to put a layer of yellow on top, then the yellow would be so light and transparent that the purple would shine through and you will not get the bright yellow color that you want. If I put purple on top of the yellow, there's a big chance that the purple will still be really purple. For the tape transfers, you need your paint to dry on the plate. That means that you have a lot of time to do your creation. You can take some time to think. You can even walk away and get some coffee if you want to, and come back later, because the paint has to be dry even in the end to do the transfer anyway. So that's really cool, because that means in this class I can actually talk as much as I need without worrying that my paint will dry and I will not get a good print or a good pull. So little bits color, and I'm just building up layers, and in the end I want some areas to stay open. I don't want to fill my entire plate, because when I pull the tape I can add stuff later and I want that to be visible, so I need some open areas where that can be visible then. And it will all make sense when we get there. So I'm going to roll out a little bit of paint here, because I really want only a tiny little bit of this color in some areas. And then when I think that I have enough like more solid color like this, I can add all kinds of texture, stamps, stencils, whatever you can think of to create pattern or texture on the plate, you can do. I might get in here while this is still wet with one of the texture tools and create some texture here. It is fun. Something like that. And then I might take one of my texture blocks that I made in my previous video. So this is one of the texture blocks, and I have a whole bunch of them with all different kinds of textures on them. And so these can be used first to remove paint from the plate, which will create a texture, but you can also use it as a stamp and actually add color to the plate. So that's what I'm going to do now. And I'm going to use yet another color. Let me see. So here I'm using Winsor and Newton, and I'm also using what you saw before are the Liquitex basics, and they are both available from Michaels. The Winsor and Newton tubes might look a little bit different because I have the European ones, and they look a little bit different, but the colors are the same. So if you get a link, if there's a link to the paints, then it's the same paints as that I'm using, even though the packaging looks different. So again, I'm going to roll out some paint on my palette, and I'm going to pick it up with my texture tool. And now I can stamp on the plate and add the texture. Oh, I like this. I like it. I think that's pretty cool. Let's also do let's do some crazy stuff and just use every color in the rainbow. So I'm going to remove some of my paint here because I don't want to mix it all up. A little bit of orange. Rolling it out. And let's do some dots. So these are actually, I don't know the name in English. Oh, push pins. Yes, I think it's push pins. So I just push them in the wood, and now they will create a circle texture on my plate.
Hey, Birgit.
Yes.
This is Luann. Can you tell us what else is on your wood block?
So on this one here are crystals, like the ones that are self-adhesive crystals. They create tiny little dots. This is just cardboard where I remove the top layer, like when you have a cardboard box. And these are felt numbers, and you also have letters, of course. And usually they are in the kids section. And they are self-adhesive, so you just can glue them on the block and create a texture with it. And this is a texture paste that I put on there, and then I used the texture tool to create the waves, and then I let it dry. And when it was dry, now it's dry. Now I can use it. So the blocks actually come from a hardware store. Like you can just have the blocks cut in any size you like. and then you can create can create these texture blocks. But as I said, that's a whole hour-long class, so you can watch that on the Michael's website or on the Gelli Arts YouTube channel. So let me also use the little dots from the crystals, so you can actually see how that looks. Isn't that fun? Mm-hmm. So here's another block, and I have little crosses on here, and they are the crosses that you put between tiles when you do tiling. And so you find these in a hardware store too. There are a lot of things that you can actually find in and around your house or in your garage or in your garden that you can use for gel printing, because anything that creates texture can be used for gel printing, as long as it's not sharp objects that will harm your plate. But otherwise, anything can be used. So, and the crosses are fun, so I'm just going to use those two. The other stuff that I showed on my on the first block is actually available at Michael's. So let's add some of these. So you could, for instance, get like little wood veneer shapes like hearts or stars or something like that, that you can apply on the block with a matte medium or any strong adhesive, and then also create texture with that.
Hey, forget one more quick question.
Yes.
Somebody wants to know how to store the tape after you create it. Do you have any tips on that?
Yes, I do. And I will get to that at the end, because when I have the tape ready, I will actually show how I store it.
Right.
So it's coming up.
Good.
And I see somebody asking about regular rubber stamps. And yes, of course, you can use any rubber stamp. You can use texture plates that are made for gel printing. You can use stencils, all kinds of stuff. The thing is that I don't have those materials from Michael's here, so that's why I'm using whatever everybody has like in their home to do the printing. But Michael's has many stamps and stencils available that you can use. You can even use a permanent ink, like a StazOn or VersaFine or whatever permanent ink you want to actually stamp on the plate, and it will come up with the tape just as easy as the paint will come off. So here's just found a little container that I think it was the lid of a container that had pencils. And I can use that to create circles. So as you can see, I'm making kind of a crazy, funny background here with all kinds of stuff. And it looks very busy, but you have to think of it as like there's only going to be a small piece of this plate that's actually going to show up on your tape, right? So you can make a lot of tape strips from this one plate. And if you make a crazy thing about it, then you will have all kinds of little interesting parts in your final tape. So another thing that you can use is bubble wrap. Bubble wrap is always good for gel printing. It creates fun texture. So again, I'm just going to clean a little bit of my paint off, and then you end up with pretty paper too if you do that a couple of times. everything can be used. What you every paper that you use for gel printing, even your cleanup paper, can be used for all kinds of fun stuff. So let's add some bubble wrap. Picking up the paint from here and putting it back down here. So if you want to, you could also take a paint marker, like an acrylic paint marker, and draw, or draw on there. You could also write, but if you write, you have to keep in mind that you have to do it reversed, because when you, no, not true. Normally, when you would do that and you would pull a print, you would have to have the text reversed, but because what you see is what you get, you can actually write on it with a paint marker, and the text will show up the right way on your tape. So also here I have some punchinella or sequin waste, and I'm just going to add some paint through the punchinella, I think, and let's do one that stands out a bit more, like a black one. And this is Americana multi-surface satin, a black one, also available at Michael's. And I'm going to add a little bit to my brayer, and then just brayer through the punchinella to create the texture. Like that. I can also add the paint to the punchinella and then try to stamp with it and see what happens there. Yeah, doesn't show up very much, but yeah, you see it better there. That's kind of fun. So I think I'm going to add just a tiny bit more, and then we can pull some prints. So a bit more of the darker contrasting color with the cardboard. Let's do some lines like that, and maybe also do a little bit of the wavy shape. Yeah, fun. So I don't know if you can see it, but there are still some open areas on my plate, everywhere where it's white. That's where I can see the paper that's underneath the plate. So that will still shine through when I pull the tape. So I'm just quickly going to remove that paint from my paint palette, so it doesn't mix with any next color that I might want to use. And now I have to make sure that this is dry, and it will take a little while because some of the black I used here is a little bit thicker, so it will take a little bit longer to dry. But meanwhile, I can tell you about some things that you can add to the tape once we've pulled the prints. So when you look at the sample I have here, I don't know if you can see it, but there's text in there, and there's also some gold in there. So the gold, this is the back side. So the gold is put on the tape in the open areas. And what happens is when you pull the print from the plate, the open areas will still be sticky. The places where the paint is will not be sticky anymore, but the open areas will still be sticky, which means that you can add, for instance, gold leaf in there. And of course, I'm going to show you how to do that. So let me see if this is dry enough. So on this side, it's still a bit wet, but I can start on that side with showing you how to pull the paint from the plate. So I have 2 sizes of tape here. And so these are no brand, and I bought them here in Europe, but there are also packaging tape and wrapping tape on the Michaels website. And they are the same as what I'm using here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the tape on the plate, just as I did at the beginning when I showed you how to clean your dirty plate. And I'm going to rub it a little bit to make sure that it's on the plate everywhere. And now I'm going to cut it like this. And then when I lift it up and I see areas where the tape did not pick up the paint, I can put it back down and rub a little longer. But apparently it looks like I don't really need to do that. So here is also the black paint, and it might be that this is still a bit wet, and that's why some of it is staying behind, but that's okay. All the other paint is coming off, as you can see. So here you go. This is the paint, the tape, as it is when it comes from the plate. So if you like this, then you can actually just use it, of course, the way it is. If you want to store tape like this is still very sticky, because everywhere where you can see through, it's still sticky. So what I do is I store my tape that is still sticky. I'm sorry, something dropped on the floor here, on an acetate sheet. So here you can see my sticky tape on an acetate sheet. So I have several of these acetate sheets with sticky tape on it. You can just stick it on there, and then you can remove it once you want to use it. Keep in mind that everywhere where there is paint, it will not be sticky anymore. So when you want to use your tape in your art journal or on your mixed media piece, you actually need an adhesive to glue it on. But this way, with the little bit of stickiness that is still there, you can very easily store it on an acetate sheet.
So Birgit, Birgit, let me ask you this. People are asking, how long can you leave the paint dry before you pick it up with the tape?
How long can you leave it to dry?
Yes.
Well, my dirty gel plate that I pulled off the paint in the beginning, I think it's been on there for like 2 weeks or something like that. It doesn't matter. You can leave it on for months if you want to. Because dry paint is dry paint and it's not changing. So as long as you want.
Okay, great. That's perfect.
So let's pull another one, and then I can show you what you can do to fill the open areas. And now I see what dropped on the floor was my tape, and now I have to find my tape. I'm very sorry about that. Okay, got it. What are we going to do without the tape, right? So I'm going to pull this one, this side. And again, I'm going to lift it up carefully to see if I pick up every bit of paint, which it does. And I'm going to put this on the table with the sticky side up. I'm just going to put this away for a moment so I can show you what I'm doing with that. So you can see on my paper that some of the mineral oil came off my plate. That's normal, and that's okay. That's not a problem. So I'm just going to fold this a little bit so that it sticks to my paper and it's not like moving everywhere. And I think I might need to clean my hands a little bit because all the paint is going from my fingers to on my tape.
Okay, Brigitte, while you're cleaning your fingers, we're
Yeah.
getting a lot of questions about what do you use the tape transfers for? How do you use them when you're done?
Well, I always say it's kind of making your own washi tape. The only thing is, so you can use it any way you would use washi tape. But if you don't ever use washi tape, but you do, for instance, collage in your art journal, then you can use it as collage material. You could use it on, so I'm going to show you in a minute that you can glue it, for instance, on a book paper, and then you could die cut it and create little shapes with it, or you can just cut little pieces to glue in your background in your art journal, or whatever you would use any washi tape or collage material for. You can also do it with the tape. And I know some people don't like the gloss of the tape, and I don't really like the gloss of the tape, but I have a tip for that, a trick to make the gloss go away. So, and I'm also going to show you that. So now the sticky side is up. So in these areas, as you can see, the tape is still sticky. And here I can put the gold leaf or the gold flakes. So here they come in a little bag, plastic bag. So I've put some in a little cup, and I can just apply them to the tape, and they will stick where there's no paint, and even in some areas where there is paint. If the paint is very thin, then it's still, the tape might still be a little bit sticky, but now it looks as if I'm going all over the paint everywhere. But of course, this is the back side of the tape, and when you turn it around, it will look differently. And then you will see that the gold is actually behind. I don't know if you can see it very well, but the gold is behind the paint. So it actually needs something behind it to see it. But if, let me see if I have a sheet of white paper here. I put it like this, then you can see it better, right? So that's one thing that's fun to do. Another fun thing is just gluing it on to book paper or music paper. So I have a sheet of music paper here, and I can show you what it looks like. So if I would put this on the music paper, like this, then this is what you will see. So what I usually do when I put it on music paper or book paper, I will then cut strips from it. So I will store it as strips, so I can actually use it as if it were tape. So I recommend when you put it on book paper or music paper like this, that you put some gel medium, like matte medium, between the paper and the tape, because it's not sticky everywhere. And then when you want to use it in your art journal, you might end up with like these loose areas. So it's better to put some gel medium in between, because gel medium is going to dry clear and you will not even see that it's there. So that's one thing that you can do. What I also like to do is, and I'm going to bring back in my gel plate. So let's pull another strip. Oh, that was not careful enough. And you can see now here that I have some, well, that's okay. I can put something in there. Okay. And here we have another one. So again, I'm going to put this one away. And sticking this to my paper so it's not moving everywhere. So I have here some tissue paper that I printed myself. But if you don't have a printer, then a laser printer you need for this, because I'm going to use tissue paper with a matte medium. So if you would use inkjet printer, then you would just move around the ink. So you need a laser printer or a photocopier. But of course, there are many tissue paper, printed tissue papers available that you can use and just buy printed already. So I'm using my Liquitex matte medium. And what I really like about the Liquitex is that it's so fluid. So you can spread it very well and you get a really thin layer, and you will not see anything of it anymore after it dried. So I'm going to put a little bit of the Liquitex on a bit of scrap paper. And then take a brush. And I'm actually first going to add some of the gold leaf also to this one, just because I think it's pretty. I like that. So this one has a bit of a color in it, but you also have these like sheets of gold leaf and also silver and copper, and they are like only one color. So if you don't like the colored flakes, you can get the sheets and you will have only that one color. But I think this is really pretty with the almost like rainbow colors in there. So instead of using the book paper, which is quite sturdy, I'm going to use the tissue paper because it's very thin and very flexible. And when you glue it on there with the matte medium, it will also get translucent, which means that you will still be able to kind of see through the tape. So if you put it on a colored background, you will still see the background shining through the tape. So because the tape is not sticky everywhere anymore, like here it's not sticky at all and here it is sticky, I'm going to use that matte medium on here. to apply the tissue paper. So, and this time, so this is the back side of the tape. So this time I actually have to keep in mind that it will be flipped. The final tape will be flipped. So I need to make sure that I put the tissue paper down with the right side on the tape. So I'm just going to glue it in here. And you can already see when I put the matte medium on top that the tissue paper is turning completely translucent. And when it dries, when the matte medium dries, it will be even more translucent than it is now. But I hope you can already see. You can still see my fingers through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it will be even more translucent once everything is dry. And then when you put it in your art journal on a colorful background, you will still also be able to see the colors in your background, which will not be possible if you use book paper or music paper. So that's what I really like about using the tissue paper. And even in the air, yeah.
So Birgit, people are asking, how do you actually print on the tissue paper? Do you tape the tissue paper to another piece of paper and then run it through your printer?
Yes, exactly. So I cut the tissue paper to my letter size, or A4 in Europe. And at the very top of my sheet, I apply the tissue paper to my copier paper with some washi tape or masking tape.
Mm-hmm.
And then I run it through my printer, because you cannot put the tissue paper in the printer as it is. It's too thin.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So you need to adhere it to another sheet of paper.
Okay. And they keep asking, how do you make the tape less glossy? But I think you'll get to that.
I will get to that now, kind of. Let me see if the other one is, where did I put, oh, the other one I put on here. Yeah, I can use that one to show it. So I'm going to put this aside for a minute for the matte medium to dry. And what I usually do is I just hang them on the side of my table. So I will just glue them down here and they can hang there and dry until I work on them a bit more. So to make your glossy tape matte, the only thing you need is some matte medium. That's all. And you just put the matte medium on top of your glossy tape, a thin layer. And you have to do it a little bit careful so you don't really see like the brush strokes. So you should do like a thin layer, and not that you still see like white, really thick white brush strokes. And if you want to, you could even do it like twice. Do a very thin layer, leave it to dry, and then add a second layer. And when the matte medium is dry, maybe you can already see a little bit that it's taking away the gloss. And it's now still a little bit glossy because it's wet. But when it's dry, it's matte and completely translucent. So that's what I did for this one. And as you can see, this tape is not glossy at all. Right? So this looks very different than, for instance, this one. Let me see if you can see the difference. So this one here is very glossy. And this one is not glossy at all.
Birgit, do you ever use your roller to apply the matte medium?
Like my brayer?
Yes.
To my tape? No,
yes.
Not to my tape. Not
okay.
to my tape. I use sometimes matte medium on my gel plate, and then I do use my brayer. I mean, you can use matte medium the same way as you would use acrylic paint, so you can also use it with your brayer. But I would not use it to apply the matte medium to my tape.
Okay.
But I don't know, why not? I mean, maybe that's even an easier way, and you won't even get like the brush strokes. I've
Right.
never tried it, but why not try, right?
Right.
So when this is dry, I will just use my scissors to cut it, and then I can, because this is not sticky anymore on the other side, I can just put it in an envelope or a file folder or whatever way I want to store it. And the same with the ones where I used the tissue paper, like this one. So what I usually do, even if I don't fill the whole tape with tissue paper or anything else that would take the stickiness away, I will apply the matte medium on the whole tape on the back side, because that will also take away the stickiness. What you can also do, if you want to, is to if you, for instance, would like your tape to be white in the open areas, so you will not see the color that's underneath the tape in your art journal, then you could just paint it. So I'm going to do it so you can see it. So I'm just going to apply, if I manage to open my paint. I'm just going to apply a white paint on the back side. And the matte medium is not completely dry, so it's kind of mixing, which makes it less opaque. But when the matte medium is dry, and you apply the paint will be pretty opaque. And if not opaque enough for your liking, then you just do a second layer after the first layer is dry. There's no use in adding more paint while it's still wet, because you will just move it around and it will not get more opaque. It will only get more opaque when you add a new layer after the first layer has dried. So, okay, and I'm going to do something now that I would normally not do on my tape. But now I want to be a little bit quicker, so I'm actually going to use a heat gun real quick, but I have to be careful, because otherwise my tape will start to wrinkle. Okay, that should be enough for now, at least to show you what it looks when you add the white paint. So I'm not sure. Yeah, you can see it, right? How cool is that with the white? And it really brings out the colors too. So this one has no matte medium on top yet. This is still a glossy one. I prefer a matte one. So when the white paint is dry and I can put it down with the paint down, I will actually add some matte medium on top of this one too. So this is kind of the basics of the tape transfers. And as I showed in the very beginning, you can use the tape also to clean your plate, and then end up with these like pretty distressed paint looks. And here also, of course, you can add the gold leaf or the tissue paper or book paper or whatever you like, and then ends up with some pretty tape. So are there any questions left right now that I can answer? Luann?
Oh my gosh, we've had so many questions. It's been great. But one from the beginning is, someone asked, can you transfer to canvas? So I'm not quite sure what they meant, but I guess it was like printing on paper. You could definitely print on a canvas. Have you done
Well,
that?
sure, you can print on canvas, you can print on any fabric, but I would not call that a transfer. I would just call it printing on canvas or printing on fabric, I guess.
Mhm.
So yeah, in that matter, yes, you can. You can basically print on almost everything from, you can also print on tissue paper, or you can print on plastic sheets, and you can print on wood, and you can print on burlap or whatever. And I mean, when you print on fabric, then the result depends a lot on the texture. So if you have like a really like burlap, you will get a very distressed print. But when you have like a really nicely woven cotton fabric, then you might get like perfect prints on fabric. So yeah, you can do that.
Okay, somebody just asked, how could you use the tape? How could you integrate the tape in a piece of mixed media art? Like, how would you do that?
Well, like I said, I would just cut pieces from it and use it as collage material. So just to build up layers of color and texture in my art journal. Or I would use it as if you have like the narrower one, like more like a washi tape. So if you would, for instance, in your art journal, put strips of washi tape to write on, for instance, then you can do it with this tape too. So yeah, you can just look at it as any type of collage material.
Maybe the one thing could be helpful. Can you go review again how to clean the plate, all the different ways you can clean it?
All the different ways you can clean it. Well, let me take my dirty paint palette plate and let's clean this one. So the first one, of course, is what we just did using the tape. So even, and especially for this, when you clean this kind of distressed paint, I like to use the smaller, the narrower tape. So you can just do it like this. And usually when you use tape to clean your plate, you will clean it like completely just with the tape. Most of the paint will come off with the tape. Sometimes you have to push it down a little bit more if you have like more layers around the edges, or maybe use a second piece of tape to get rid of that layers. But as you can see, my plate is like almost completely clean. And also I end up with this like pretty tape that I can use, right? Then another thing you can do is just like use a wet baby wipe or a cloth that is just moist, a little bit wet, and you can just clean it like this. But I prefer, if I have as much paint as I have now, I prefer to use the tape, because then the paint is not wasted and I can still use it.
Hey, Birgit, have you ever tried using double stick tape, double-sided tape?
I have not.
That's interesting. Yeah.
It is interesting. It is actually interesting, and I'm like, okay, that's the next thing that I'm going to try now. That's a good question. No, I haven't, and I'm not sure. I mean, double-sided tape is easy. I think hard to pull from the plate. I think it will rip because it's so thin. But I can experiment with that, but I never did it. Another thing that you can do with paint that's left on the plate is use a new layer of paint to pull the paint from the plate. And that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to add a little bit of paint And you really need a thin, very thin layer of paint to do this, because if you have a thick layer of paint, you will only lift up the top layer of the paint and not be able to also pull the dried paint. So depending on how many layers of paint are on there and how much there are like thick crusts of paint dried around the plate. Depends a little bit on that. If you get everything up, and normally you get the most pretty prints cleaning your plate. So this is cleaning up my plate and getting a very nice print that I can use as a mixed media background or anything at the same time. And now there's only a little bit of paint left here around the edges. And if everything else fails, you just take some baby oil, or you could also use a vegetable oil, like, or an olive oil or whatever, as long as it's oil, and a paper towel. And the oil will remove even the thinnest leftover, even the what you don't see when you think your plate is clean, but there's only like a little bit of pigment still there. You will take it off with the baby oil, as you can see. So baby oil, and then I when it's clean, I just rinse it under like warm, not really warm, but a bit warm water with some soft hand soap to clean it. But as I said, when we started, usually I don't clean my jelly plate. The ones that I'm not using for my videos, I don't clean them, because these leftover bits of paint will also come off in your prints and add some extra, like extra texture, extra color, and make your prints more interesting.
So Birgit, we're down to probably 30 seconds.
Okay, then I hope everybody enjoyed this class, and I hopefully see you again next month.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.